And welcome, everybody. Hands-on Apologetics. You have entered into Virgin Most Powerful Apologetics Dojo. So, I mean, this really is, especially for young parents, the question of how can we possibly raise our kids so that not only do they retain their faith in Catholicism, but that they're confident in their faith. Where do you start?
Yeah. I mean, really, secular society will waste no time in telling anybody that their faith is antiquated or, anti-woman or anti-science, anti-modernity. So it's so tricky because if you are not doing your part, which is passing on the faith to your children, somebody else is just going to swoop in. And a lot of these catchphrases when it comes to atheism or just anti-Catholicism, they sound good, Yeah. So it's if our kids aren't equipped to answer those questions, or at least have the faith and trust in their parents and their church that even if they don't know the answer, that answer does exist. Mm-hmm. I can imagine that it would be very difficult to stay Catholic. I mean, I don't have the benefit of having been raised Catholic. I was raised in a non-religious household. It was actually pretty anti-Catholic or anti-organized religion in general. So I would have been one of those people trying to get friends to stop being so obedient to the church. Yeah. So where do you start? I think the main thing is to be. I think it really comes down to being joyful to begin with in the faith, and not looking at going to church or following, no meat on Fridays in Lent, or maybe no meat throughout the year, as something of a burden. I think it really comes down to how we act about our faith, and then also how we teach it is something that goes hand in hand. But it really comes down to how we live it out in our own lives, because children are looking at that all the time.
Yeah. In fact, I think that's probably the first thing they pick up is not so much, arguments or facts or anything like that, but they're looking at, does mom and dad really buy into this? Do they enjoy it? Is this something that they would rather not have? Those type of message, I think young kids really pick up on very quickly.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Are my parents looking for an excuse not to go to Mass? I was thinking about this. We have a very large, beautiful, but pretty poorly trained Saint Bernard, who is very food obsessed. So, which you can imagine as, 100+ pound dog would probably be. Yeah. And I know that my son said something to our Saint Bernard after she snatched some food away from him. And I was like, oh, that's something I would have said. I can't remember exactly the words. It probably wasn't very good, though. But that made me think of that. Like, wow, I mean, my child is picking up on just the way I talk to the dog sometimes. What else? They pick up everything, and they are so attuned to body language or tone of voice. You really do have to pay attention to how you approach the faith. Is it something that is just a burden and an annoyance and something that takes you away from the rest of your fun life? Or is it the center of your life? And the way you approach that is going to be vastly different, even in your body language and how energetic you might be getting dressed to go to Mass, or if you're taking your kids to daily Mass, or not grumbling about things that you have to do for the faith, or just like, oh, quick, we got to get this prayer done because we have to do it. Or are we joyful and happy and excited to build our lives around the faith, which should be at the center of it?
Yeah, that's very true. I'm usually joyful getting dressed. I'm thinking back when our kids were young. I was joyful getting myself dressed. By the time I tried to get them dressed, I wasn't so joyful.
That is, yeah. I have no answers to that. I'm living that reality at the moment. We've made our kids throughout quarantine. We've been doing dry masses during the day just with the reading. So every morning around 7:15, we're early birds, and small children are usually anyway. But everybody gets dressed for the day in nice clothes, and they can get into the comfier things later on if they want. But we've decided that once we are past quarantine and daily masses are back on, we are going to be going every single day. We typically would go 2 or 3 days a week outside of Sunday obligation. But yeah, so we've been training everybody to get dressed and find socks and everything. It won't be so painful in a few weeks.
Yeah, every Sunday somebody only has one shoe, and no one knows where the other shoe is.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, it is. And you have to look at that as a challenge. God puts these little obstacles to see how much you love them and, to overcome them.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, use those moments as sanctification.
Yeah.
Or, prepare ahead of time and put the shoes out in the evening before you go to bed.
Yeah.
That could also be a good
that
idea.
Didn't work either. I don't know how. I mean, it's just, if it wasn't a shoe, it was a sock. If it wasn't a sock, it was, I don't know. But, being joyful, but I think parents have to be careful not to manufacture joy, because kids can smell like when the parents are trying to pull something over on them. Like, it's got to be authentic, right?
Yeah. Yeah, but we all should be, if we understand our faith, despite all the trials that life may throw at us, we should be exceedingly joyful. I mean, we have a God who loves us and who will, at the end of our lives and then at the end of time, bring us to him for eternity. I mean, that's a very happy ending that we should all be looking forward to.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, so maybe that's a good, starting point. If you aren't joyful about your faith, you need to get joyful. You need to understand it, because chances are you don't understand wholly. Yeah.
Yeah. If you are annoyed that you have to go to Mass on Sundays, well, chances are you don't understand fully the Eucharist.
Yeah.
If you understand the Eucharist, you would be very happy to go to church, and it doesn't matter if you're frustrated getting everybody into the car or getting dressed or finding shoes or realizing that a toothbrush is being used to brush the dog's fur and not your child's teeth or whatever it is. Like, that stuff we can put aside if we know that we are going to the wedding feast, every Sunday or even in daily Mass. So if there are points that I would try to, identify what, if there are points of friction in our own lives towards the faith, what are those points? Because we should be joyful about all of it once we understand what it is, and then dive deeper so that you can learn. And then, of course, there's a good chance that as either your children at a young age are going to come up with some really cool philosophical and theological questions for you to tackle, or as they get older, they're going to wrestle with these things too. So no matter how old your children are, it'll be a good thing for us as parents to go deeper into our own questions of faith.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're struggling, pray. Bring it up to the Lord that I'm struggling to be joyful in this, and please help me.
Yes, that is prayer should probably be the first out of anything. Pray to how to be joyful for your own faith. Pray on how to give the gift of faith to your children, or your family members who may have gone astray or whatever. Yeah, prayer should be a numero uno on the list there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so be joyful. That's a great target, because after all, I mean, the whole goal of being Catholic is happiness, right? Ultimately, happiness in God. And it's funny how if you told somebody the reason I'm Catholic is because I want to be happy in the greatest possible way, people look at you like, what?
Yeah.
It's like somehow that's
not
been
something
lost
you hear
in the mix. Yeah.
Yeah, you must be confused. No, I gotta tell you, I mean, I've shared my conversion story on your show before, but I spent years of searching for answers to those big questions that we all seem to have, and I know a life without God and without the God of Catholicism and the one